About ready to get started. So good morning and thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. My name is Christine Bruno and I'm here with GraVoc, and we're excited to partner with Marvin and his team at AccountingWare to bring you today's webinar titled How to Streamline Your Financial Reports with the Next Generation of ActiveReporter. So as many of you know, ActiveReporter is an awesome Excel-based financial tool, and we're excited about all the new features coming out with G2. So without further ado, I'm going to pass this on over to Marvin and let Marvin dive right into our demo. Marvin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Christine, and thank you, GraVoc, for hosting this presentation of ActiveReporter Generation 2. At the end of the presentation, if you'll stick around and fill out the survey, you get a chance to win a $25 gift card from Amazon. So be sure and fill out that survey at the end. So I've got just a few slides that I want to go through here, introducing ourselves. We are AccountingWare. We have been involved in the accounting software business for over 40 years. And the product we're going to show you today is ActiveReporter. It's been in development for over 15 years, so it's a very thorough product, a very comprehensive product, has a lot of features, a lot more than we can show you today. But when Microsoft announced that they were no longer going to actively develop Management Reporter about 5 years ago, we said that we could add a lot of value to the GP community by using our experience of interfacing Excel directly to an ERP system. So we introduced the first version of ActiveReporter at GPUG 2017, 4.5 years ago. And then last fall, we introduced the Generation 2 product, which we're going to show today. When we talk about Excel financial reporting, I like to put it in context because there are a lot of ways that you can use Excel with your financial reporting. I'm sure you're familiar already with export to Excel, because if you're using Management Reporter or FRX, this product will allow you to export your financial data to Excel. But the problem with that is that there's no tie back to your GP data. There are other products that generate Excel spreadsheets, and these are products like Jet Reports and BI 360. Now, they do allow tie back to GP data, but once you get that generated spreadsheet, you no longer can modify that spreadsheet, because every time you regenerate it, you'll lose all your modifications. So there's no edit capability. But ActiveReporter is different from either one of these experiences, either export or generate, because ActiveReporter is just Excel with added functions. So the ActiveReporter product has taken Excel, added functions to take data out of your GP database and put it onto a spreadsheet. That's all it is. It's just Excel. But we also have full tieback for all of the numbers on your spreadsheet to your GP data. And you can edit the spreadsheet all you want and never lose any edits. So you can put graphs on it, you can add data to it, you can add columns to it, and the only thing you have to do to update your spreadsheet is hit the F9 key to update that spreadsheet. So it's just Excel. It's just Excel, no export and no generation of the output. Now, I know a lot of you use Management Reporter, so this graph will show you what I've just talked about in Management Reporter. So with Management Reporter, you have a designer, and you run that through the GP database, and you come up with a viewable list of your spreadsheet, in this case, a balance sheet. And from that, you export this to Excel. But as I just pointed out in the slide before, anytime you make a change to that Excel presentation, and you have a change back in your GP database, then when you regenerate that, you lose your Excel report. You lose your changes to your graph. But ActiveReporter is different, because ActiveReporter, you build your spreadsheet. If you have a change to your GP database, the only thing you have to do is hit the F9 key, and it will update your data. Okay, so let's talk just a minute about what we're going to show today in our demonstration. The first thing we're going to show is financial reporting using Excel, and that's what we've been talking about for the last few minutes. Now we also have a tool that will assist you in taking your Management Reporter reports and moving them to ActiveReporter. So we'll show that tool in the presentation today too. The second thing we want to show is the visibility of your general ledger data in ActiveReporter. This is like a smart list, but it's much faster, like a smart list on steroids, 1,000 times faster than a typical smart list in Dynamics GP. And the third thing that we're going to show is something called the active trial balance, because every day you work in trial balances to do your account research. So we're going to show you how you can use the active trial balance, and it has a lot of very unique features that you've never seen before. These are the three things that we like to show when showing the ActiveReporter product. But really, there is a fourth thing, and that fourth thing is it's really fast. And there's even a fifth thing, it's really an affordable product. Okay, so when I demonstrate the Excel reporting, what I like to do first is show the finished product. So we're going to show you a spreadsheet that's been built with ActiveReporter. We're going to show you what it looks like and what is the functionality. And then we're going to step back and show you how easy it is to build these financial workbooks with all the tools that ActiveReporter gives you. And with that, I'm going to put away the slide deck and we're going to get straight into the demonstration. Okay, well, as advertised, what I want to do is bring up a finished financial first. Now, this financial showcase 2022 is a financial, and it's stored here on my desktop. This is that financial that's stored right here on my desktop. And I want to point that out because in a minute, I'm going to show you how we would prefer you're storing these finished spreadsheets that you built with ActiveReporter. But for our first example, we're going to go to some number on this spreadsheet. Here's the accounts receivable number of 5.7 million. And the difference in this and a normal spreadsheet is that there's a down arrow next to it. And from that down arrow, we can examine all of the postings in Dynamics GP that make up that $5.7 million. Indeed, there are, down in the bottom left-hand corner, 2,322 of them. I can scroll all the way up and down through all 2,322 of them. If I find one that I want to further investigate, I can click on it, or I can, with a single keystroke, drill back and see that same posting for $31.95 back here in Dynamics GP. And of course, once I get into GP, I can further follow that back to the source document in Dynamics GP. So the experience that we have with ActiveReporter is that we have the ability to build these spreadsheets using the ActiveReporter functions, and then we can take any number on that spreadsheet, drill down to the underlying detail, and this is almost instantaneous. It's very fast, and there's 2,516 of them. And then for any one of those that we want to investigate further, we can drill back and see that posting in Dynamics GP. Okay, let's talk just a moment about this drill down explorer. Because with this drill down explorer, this is like your smart list. This is a smart list, but it's extremely fast. And you can sort by account number. You can sort by the posting date. You can filter this information like just to the payroll journal. You can filter this information to like the sales journal. You can say, I want to look at all debits and credits from the amount of $100 to $1,000, and it will filter all the debits and credits that you see here between $100 and $1,000. So you have a lot of research capabilities in the drill down explorer as you move from the spreadsheet to the drill down explorer. There are a lot of research capabilities. This is in deference to a product like Management Reporter, where you can only drill back to the current period transactions, and then you only have a searchable list. So much more usable, user-friendly than what you can do in Management Reporter. Okay, so that's the experience that we'll have once we get our Management Reporter products or our ActiveReporter products built in Excel. Now I want to show you some of the variations that we have. We're looking at here on the screen a balance sheet. And this is a nice balance sheet because it has a columnar set up where the assets are on the left and the liabilities and capital are on the right. Very succinct presentation. But we also have, in this particular spreadsheet, we have multiple tabs down at the bottom. So we can look at other spreadsheets that we built with ActiveReporter. Here's a departmental statement. Here is an income statement by month for the entire year. Here's a trailing 4 years. So people ask us, they say, can I do this in ActiveReporter, whatever this is? And the answer is, can you do it in Excel? And if you say, yes, I can do it in Excel, then you can do it in ActiveReporter, because ActiveReporter is just Excel with added functions. Now, what do I mean by added functions? If I look at one of these numbers like this 5.176 million, you'll notice that this function up here in the function bar is a year-to-date function. So it brings in the year-to-date of a set of accounts from your general ledger as of a specific date. If we look back at the balance sheet over here and look at one of the numbers here, this is the balance function. And those are two of the about 50 functions that ActiveReporter has added to Excel. If we look at this, this report right here, this is different because normally in a product like Management Reporter, you're putting across the horizontal axis your time, you know, like current period last year, year to date last year, and so forth. And then down the vertical axis, you're putting the account or groups of accounts, your account aggregation. But in this case, since ActiveReporter can put anything in any cell on any spreadsheet, we can reverse that where we're using our account aggregation across the horizontal axis and our time down the vertical axis. And that's because we're just Excel with added functions. And if you look at this function right here, this particular function is an activity function. That means the net transactions, the net debits and credits for a particular account or group of accounts for a particular time period. We can also do cash flow statements. This is the indirect method of the cash flow statement. Again, if you can imagine it in Excel, we can produce it in ActiveReporter. We can also do multiple company statements. Now, what do I mean by multiple company statements? Well, many times in GP, you have multiple databases. In our example here, Fabricam and Gabricam and the university are multiple databases, 3 databases. But in the university's case, we're using a segment of the chart of account number to represent a company. Therefore, we can produce financials from multiple databases or using the same database with a segment of the chart of account number being the delineator of the company and using a product like MEM to distinguish those companies. And we can consolidate all of those. We can consolidate even though the university is on a July to June timeframe calendar, and the Fabricam and Gabricam are both on calendar years. And then, of course, we can do very fancy boardroom type reporting. Here is the reason I call it fancy is because I have my balance sheet on the left, I have my P&L on the right, I have graphs in the middle, and a picture of the company headquarters at the top. And all of this is produced because we can put any number on any spreadsheet in any location, because ActiveReporter is just Excel with added functions. Now you might wonder, since I have all of these particular different reports, the balance sheet that we started with, the departmental charts and so forth, you might wonder what happens when I change the date, because right now all of these reports are as of April 30th, 2017. If I want to, I can go up here to the options and I can change the date from April to May. Now, when you're doing this in a product like Management Reporter, you're producing one financial at a time. You're producing your balance sheet, and then you're producing your other statements. You're producing your trailing 12 months of your cash flow. But in this case, I produced all of these statements simultaneously in one workbook with multiple spreadsheets. And now all of these are as of May 31st, 2017. So that is another advantage of ActiveReporter over Management Reporter, because we're producing all the reports simultaneously. So these are features that we can produce with ActiveReporter. And now I'm going to put away this spreadsheet and I'm going to go into a blank spreadsheet and show you how easy it is to produce these financial reports using ActiveReporter? Well, I'm going to bring up the ActiveReporter user interface because ActiveReporter is much different than Management Reporter in the fact that you really have visibility into your GP data from ActiveReporter, just like you do in Dynamics GP or SmartList. So over here on the left-hand column in the navigation pane, I have 6 companies: Fabricam, Fabricam SR, Gabricam, Habricam, Mabricam, and University. And as you can guess, all the Abricam companies are sort of related with somewhat the same data. But the University is a separate database with much more data in it. I'm going to spend most of my time today in Fabricam SR. And you'll notice as I expand that, I get a listing of my chart of accounts over here in what we call the high definition pane. Now, in the chart of accounts, this is like a smart list because it lists all of your accounts, just like you can list over here in your accounts in Dynamics GP in the navigation pane, or in the in the navigator. But here it's much faster. And in particular, if you look down in the bottom left-hand corner, there's 4,297 accounts in the chart of accounts for the Fabricam SR data. I can scroll all the way down through them just like I could in the Drill Down Explorer. But to show you how fast the ActiveReporter system is, I'm going to look at the journal entries. In this case, I have 5,086 journal entries. But if I look at the single-legged journal entries in the journal detail, I have 116,438 down in the bottom left-hand corner. And I can scroll all the way down through all 116,000 of them. I can sort those by the account number in ascending, by posting date, by reference, by debits, by credits. So even though there's 116,000 of them, the experience that you'll have is almost instantaneous. Typically, we can produce about 50,000 transactions per second in the high definition pane, and this is like 1,000 times faster than a smart list. Now, this is interesting because even though I'm looking at the journal detail here in ActiveReporter, I can, just like I could from the Drill Down Explorer, with a single keystroke, drill back and look at that 44,962.50 back over here in Dynamics GP. And of course, I can trace that back to the source documents in Dynamics GP. So in addition to being able to do it from a spreadsheet, I can do it from the smart list also. But what we really want to do next is show you how easy it is to build these financial reports using Excel. Now, remember a few minutes ago, I said that the showcase that we showed you to begin with, the finished financial, was stored here on my desktop. But we encourage our customers to store all of their financial designs inside the database, and that's what we have here listed in the financial designs. And that same showcase 2022 is also inside of the workbook. We're inside the database. We're storing the .xls files inside the database rather than in the Windows file system. And the reason why we do that is that we can keep up with all historical versions. How many times have you started editing in a spreadsheet and say, oh, I didn't mean to do that. It's too late for Control Z. I need to go back to the one that I worked on yesterday. You can do that with ActiveReporter because ActiveReporter keeps up with all of your historical versions as you build these spreadsheets. This one started back in October of last year, and it's gone through 17 revisions to its current status. Well, another reason why to store it inside the database is that you always know where your authoritative copy is. You never wonder if it's on Susie's desk or Mark's desk or somebody else's desk. You always know it's in the database, and we can protect it. We can secure it with a very thorough security system. Okay, but what we really want to do is we want to start with a new financial design. So we're going to open a new financial design, and we're going to call this GraVoc First Financial. And we open a workbook. Now, the only thing that I need to do to this workbook, other than what is normal, is that I need to give it a date, because all of the numbers that appear on the workbook need to have some point in time reference. So I'm going to give that date April of 2017. And besides that, and the Activity HD ribbon here that you see, this is just Excel. Now, ActiveReporter has added this Activity HD ribbon to assist you in building these financial designs. And all of the functions that we've talked about earlier, the functions for numbers, the functions for descriptions, the functions for individual accounts, periods, and companies are all listed up here in the Activity HD ribbon. So if I'm going to build a financial design from scratch, I'm going to start with a company name. I want to put the company name something like in E1. So the company name, I don't need to give it any parameters. It brings in the name of the company where I'm located in this Fabricam SR company. But since this is just Excel, I can go to the home button. I can color it red. I can make it big. I can make it bold. I can do anything I want because this is just Excel. I use my Excel expertise to build this financial like I want it. Now down below the company name, I'd probably want to put the date. Remember, I put the date April of 2017 when I first went in, but I want this in some sort of a formal text string. So I can go to the periods and I can say as of period end, April 30th of 2017. And so it brings in that default date. Now, as a first example, I'm going to show you how to build a financial cell by cell. But hold on, in a few minutes, we're going to show you how you can build these with a wizard, and you can build them all. You can build an entire spreadsheet with just a few clicks. But just to show you, we can put anything in any cell on any spreadsheet. We're going to build up this first one with just a few cells as we go. Now over here in B5, I'll probably want to put the name of an account or a group of accounts. I'm going to use a single account and put the description of a particular account 000-1100-00-A. Now the A is something that ActiveReporter automatically adds to the account structure in Dynamics GP. You don't have to worry about it. You never change anything in GP, but it's a delineator. It delineates what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the actual postings or the descriptions for the charts of account. I'm not talking about the budgets. I'm not talking about the reporting ledgers like IFRS, but the actual numbers. And when I do that, it brings back the name of the cash and bank corporate account, which you see right there in Dynamics GP. Now over here in something like I5, I would want to put the balance of the cash and bank corporate account. So I can go up here to my financial functions and bring in the balance function. But just to show you that we're really built into Excel, I'm going to go to the Insert Function Wizard in Excel. And I'm going to use the Activity Financial Functions, and I'm going to bring in the balance function from there. It's exactly the same as bringing it in from the Activity HD ribbon. You can use either or both. It doesn't make any difference. Now, all numeric functions in ActiveReporter have 5 arguments. They're all the same. The first one is the point in time, and by default, it's going to use what I've defaulted this entire statement to be, April 30th, 2017. It has 2 arguments for the accounts that I want to include, so I can group the accounts in 2 different arguments. The company argument is which database, GP database I'm working with, and the unit argument is which currency I'm dealing with. So for right now, I want the cash and bank corporate account. I want it as of April 30th, 2017. So I'm going to leave the period blank, and I'm going to put gl.account, which is equal to 000-1100-00-A. And when I do that, I get a number 7. Okay, I'll go back to my Excel. I'll format that 725,243. Now, how do I know that that is the cash and bank corporate account balance as of April 30th? I know so because I can, as I build the spreadsheet, I can drill down and see the numbers behind that 727,243. You'll notice that as I look down through here, all of the accounts are that same 0001100-00-A account, and I can sort it in ascending and descending order to prove that. I can sort it in ascending and descending order by date, and the last posting date is 4/30/2017. So indeed, that is the balance of the cash and bank corporate account as of April 30th, 2017. Now, I could continue this way and I could build up a balance sheet or a trial balance or just some report with a lot of different accounts in my Dynamics GP account structure. But this is the long, tedious way to build a financial design. I want to take now and show you a very rapid way to build these financial designs. But before I do so, I want to show you what happens when you make a posting in Dynamics GP. So let's go back over here into Dynamics GP and let's make a posting into our general ledger. I'm going to make that posting into the batch GV. I want to add this as a new batch, so it's going into a unposted state. I'm going to post it as of 4/10/17, so it will go into this balance as of April 30th, 2017. I'm going to put a reference of test, and I'm going to go down and I'm going to make a posting to the account 000110000, and I'm going to make that for $1 million. So now if it works as advertised, as soon as I make this posting, this number should change from 725,000 to 1,725,000. But of course, I need to make a balanced entry over here. So I'll go to my next line on the posting, and I'll make this posting into some other account here, 0001105, for an offsetting $1 million. And I will save this transaction. Now, nothing happened over here. You didn't see that go to 1,725,000. But what happens if I hit the F9 key? As soon as I hit the F9 key to regenerate or recalculate the spreadsheet, it did come in as 1,725,000. And I can drill down on it right now, sort it by debits, and there is that $1 million that I just posted in my Dynamics GP. So indeed, the only thing that you need to do as you make postings in GP to get your spreadsheet updated with those postings is just recalculate the spreadsheet or hit the F9 key. Okay, but I said we really don't want to build spreadsheets one cell at a time. We want to build them quickly. So I'm going to go to sheet number 2 here and show you a fast way to build the financial designs. Well, we have a wizard. In the Activity HD ribbon, there's a wizard, and that wizard is called the Layout Wizard. And I can use the Layout Wizard to build balance sheets and income statements and trial balance of various natures. I'm going to use as my first example, I'm going to build a balance sheet with the current versus the prior year. The wizard is going to build me a statement where the column is current and the column is prior year. But what do I put on the individual rows? Well, by using this pull down here, I can put every account in the chart of account on an individual row. Or I could use some of the segments of the chart of account number, or I could use something like the GP categories and group my rows that way. Or I could use something that came over from Management Reporter, or I could use something that I just built arbitrarily in the facilities that ActiveReporter has called rollups. But for my first example, I'm going to use the categories from GP as reflected that are limited to just the balance sheet. Now, when I do that, this will build a balance sheet with current period and year to date. You'll notice here that it has the current period and the year to date and the period last year. Now, this is not a complete financial. This is what we call a template financial. And we've got some green areas at the top and the left and some red notices here. And we'll talk about those in just a few minutes. But first of all, the reason why we call this a template is it's not quite finished yet. It needs a little bit of work, but all of the work that you need to do to make this a finished financial is just Excel work. So I may want to delete this header. I may want to go in and put maybe assets here. I may want to go down and somewhere split apart some rows and put in some white space and put in some totals. But everything that I'm doing to take the template and making it a finished financial is just Excel. So I will go back to my home button. I'll hit the auto sum button. I'll put a top bar on that to distinguish it as a total. I will put a dollar sign on that. I will take this number and copy it to the adjacent column. But to take the template financial that the wizard builds for you and make a finished financial is just Excel work. And of course, you can put color on it in any way you want to. You can put graphs on it. You can do anything you want because this is just Excel. Now let's talk about, you can't hardly miss it, this big red warning. It says review needed. How many times in Management Reporter have you built a financial and you forgot to go in and maybe add a new account to your group of accounts that make up your aggregations? That's what this is telling you, and that's why we built this report this way. We wanted to show you that you can go into Activity HD and go to the log, and it will tell you here before you produce the financial that you're missing some accounts. So you need to go fix that. Now, the second thing that's obvious here is a lot of green areas at the top and at the left. Now, many of our competitors use these green areas as what they call reserved areas. And you have to be very careful in working in those areas, otherwise you'll mess up the calculations. That is not what we're doing in ActiveReporter. ActiveReporter has no reserved areas, as was obvious over here in sheet 1. I didn't have to have reserved areas here. The only thing that we're doing with these areas at the top and the left is we're dereferencing all of our variables. So if you look at any formula down here and you look at that formula, you'll notice that it references all of the, it has as its variables, it's referencing the first 3 columns and the columns G1, G2, and F2. So we're just using the native or innate capabilities of Excel to dereference your variables. Now, why do we do that? We do that because it makes it real easy to extend these financials. For example, right now we have in column G, we have the current period. In column H, we have last year. In this case, 2017, 2016. What if I want to put 2015 in column I? I can copy column H, I can paste it into column I, and I can change this one variable, current minus 1 year, to current minus 2 years, and I'm done. Even the heading labels change. So you see immediately how you can produce a 10-year comparative financial with just a few key clicks. And that's because we've dereferenced all the variables. If you really think about it, every one of these functions, every one of these numbers down here, the formulas are all the same because the variables are up here at the top and over at the left. That's just good, sensible use of Excel. What else can we do? Maybe we have in column G the actual postings. If we want the budgets in column H, I can copy column G. I can insert it into column H, and I can change this A for actuals to B for budgets. And now all of these numbers here are represented by the budgetary numbers, and those are the numbers that are in, or those are the accounts, or the totals in those accounts as of that date, with these accounts ending in B. And what if I want a variance? This is just Excel. So I'll go in and I'll insert a column, and I will call it variance. And now I will go down and I will just put in the Excel formula that calculates the actual from the budget to create the variance. So once we use the wizard to build the template financial, all the skill set that you need to complete this and make it a finished financial is just Excel. And you know very well how to do that. And of course, every number here is drill downable to the underlying detail and drill backable to Dynamics GP, even as you build it. Okay, so we've shown you a simple way to build a financial. What about moving from Management Reporter to ActiveReporter? So we have a facility that will do about 85 to 90% of the work for you. So I'm going to put this financial down and I'm going into the Management Reporter Designer. I know you're familiar with this. If you look at this very top report, this is a balance sheet. And if I expand that, the most tedious thing to do is the row definitions. So I'm going to go into the row definition here for this balance sheet. And what I mean by the tedious part, and that is building all of these row definitions to distinguish what's going to go into a particular row on your financial design. Well, what we've done in ActiveReporter is we've taken and built a program that will allow us to move this row definition into a similar concept over here in ActiveReporter called a roll-up. Roll-ups are very similar to row definitions. In fact, they're basically identical concepts. So I'm going to take this row definition from Management Reporter and use a program to move it from Management Reporter to ActiveReporter. And that program is called New Rollup from Management Reporter Rows. So I'll start this. I need to give it authentication to get into the Management Reporter databases. And as soon as I do so, we see that there's a list here of all the row definitions out of Management Reporter. If you look at them, the very first one is that FAB balance sheet. The second one is the cash, and so forth. Well, I'm going to use that first one, and I'm going to take that and create a roll-up in ActiveReporter that mimics the one in Management Reporter. I'm finished. I will take and activate it so that I can use it. And now I will look at it to make sure it's got the same data. So here in this row code of 130, which is the row code 130, it's called cash operating account. Same thing over here. And I'm summarizing the accounts. I'm including everything that is between 1100 and 1130, 1190 and 1800, which is exactly the same thing that we have here in the Management Reporter row definition. So indeed, I have extracted this information and moved it from Management Reporter to ActiveReporter. Now let's use it. So now I can go back into that same spreadsheet. I can start sheet number 3. I can use my layout wizard just like I did a few minutes ago with the current and last year, but this time I'm going to use that row definition I just extracted from Management Reporter. And when I do so, it generates a template financial. Now this template financial will be a mirror of the one that I produced with this row layout over in Management Reporter. Now, just like before, I have a few things that I need to do. I may need to delete some headers. I may need to put in some other literals, because we move everything except we do not move the literals and the subtotals from Management Reporter to ActiveReporter. So you have to go through a similar process that I did it over here on sheet 2 to extend this and finish up the design to make it look identical to the one in Management Reporter. You'll note also that there is a print view, so I can hide all these green areas. So I can hide all those areas and it will automatically hide those. And of course, the printout will never include those areas in green. And I can save this. And as soon as I save it, I can exit this. I can save my design, this GraVoc's new first financial. And so you'll notice the first version that I've created is 40 minutes past the hour. So next time I edit that, it will save it again. And so I'll always have the most recent copy available to me, or any historical version also. So now that we've seen how we can move Management Reporter to ActiveReporter, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to show you what happens when you get the finished financial built and how you can distribute these financials to your stakeholders. So I want to put this one away, and I want to go to another financial design that we've got called the Managerial Report. I'm going to bring it up and show it to you so you can see what it looks like. But then we want to disseminate this managerial report to many different users and maybe many different incarnations of that report. So as I bring this up, I want to show you, we'll calculate this spreadsheet so it'll populate with the numbers. I want to show you what we're looking at here and show you a diagram of the company that's represented here with this managerial report. So I've got a diagram. This particular company is a convenience store chain. And with a convenience store chain, we have various stores in various locations and a lot of reporting requirements. So for example, we have a convenience store on 82nd Street, on 4th and Q, on North University. These are delineated by the division segment of our chart of account. The 82nd Street store is zeros, the 4th and Q store is 100s, and so forth. These are rolled up into the Lubbock division. We have the same thing in Midland, 3 stores being rolled up into the Midland division. Same thing in Abilene with 2 stores. And then, of course, all of these people are reporting up to the CFO of the organization. So we need to produce a report for the CFO. We need to produce a report for the Abilene manager. We need to produce a report for the 4th and Q manager. All of these are possible with what we call our financial tree reporting bot. But there's another level of presentation we also need. For example, every one of the stores has a grocery department, a snacks department, and a soft drinks department. And the grocery manager manages all the stores, not just a single store. So we need to report the grocery to the grocery manager and the snacks manager and the soft drinks manager. So there's a myriad of different reports that we need to produce with this one design that we call our managerial report. Well, we can produce this one report at a time, because I can go into the options here and I can say, I want this report just to reflect the division, and that division can be any one of the stores. So I'm going to just do the 82nd Street store. Now you'll notice as I recalculate this, this says it's the 82nd Street store. And now these are the numbers just for the 82nd Street store for April and year to date. And then, of course, for each one of the departments within that store, they're on the second tab of this spreadsheet. Well, if I want it for a different store, I could go in here and make this for store 100, which is the 4th and Q store. And I can say, okay, I can recalculate it. And now it puts over here 4th and Q store. But this would be very tedious if I had to go in, if I had 20 stores and it rolled up into many different regions and so forth. This would be tedious to go in and build each one of these spreadsheets, maybe extract it, put it in a PDF file, and send it to all of my constituents that need these reports. So you don't have to do this because we have something called a reporting tree. So I'm not going to save this. I'm going to go out of my financial designs, and I'm going into a program that we call the Financial Tree Reporting Program. Now with this program, we're going to use a configuration file. this configuration file is called the report and distribution matrix. So before I actually produce this, I want to go look at this spreadsheet called the report and distribution matrix. It's here on my desktop. And what this report does, or what this spreadsheet does, it delineates and describes all of the reports that I want to build and who I want to send them to. So for example, there's going to be a report called the enterprise report. And this enterprise report is going to be a single workbook with all of these various tabs on that workbook, worksheets. The first tab is going to be the 82nd Street store, the 4th and Q store, the North University store, and so forth. Then it's going to build another workbook called the Lubbock workbook for the Lubbock manager, and it will have 4 tabs on it, one for each store in the reporting tree, one for each one of these stores, because this is for this Lubbock manager. And the same thing is true for the Midland manager, and the same thing is true for the Abilene manager. So this defines the reports that I want to build. And the second tab on this spreadsheet defines the recipients. So the manager for the Lubbock division is going to be sent to this email address. It's going to be sent with maybe a default email body and subject. The Midland manager is going to be sent to this address. The CFO is going to be sent to this address, and so forth. And you can have as many recipients as you want. You could have 100 recipients. You could have 100 reports being built, because this particular report and distribution matrix spreadsheet defines all the reports and who's going to receive those reports. Now, I can go now run this this financial tree reporting bot, and it will build all of those financials as defined by that report and distribution matrix, and it will use this email subject and these email bodies unless they're overridden. So now I will go off, say okay here, and it will start building all of those financial reports. Now this takes 3 or 4 minutes, so I don't want to sit here and do nothing for 3 or 4 minutes, so I'm going to show you one final feature that we promised at first about the ActiveReporter product, and that product is called the Active Trial Balance. So I'm going to start up another copy of ActiveReporter. Did I start that? I want to start another copy of ActiveReporter, and I'm going into something we call financial views and to a trial balance. Now this is a trial balance unlike anything you've ever seen before, because this trial balance is active. That means that anytime you make a posting over here in Dynamics GP, it's going to be reflected here immediately, no F9 key necessary, as you make the postings. I'm going to show that to you in a minute, but I want to show you something even more special about this first. Let's look at our inventory parts. If I double click on this, I can drill down and see all my historical balance. There's 572 entries making up that balance to begin with. Here are all my debit postings. Here are all my credit postings. Here's the net debits and credits, and here's the ending balance. And for any one of these numbers, I can, of course, drill back and see that posting for $750 back over here in Dynamics GP. So I can really do significant account research, because I can, for any period of time, so I can change this from April to maybe July of that same year. It's almost instantaneous. I can go into any one of these numbers and really examine what's there and drill back and see those postings in Dynamics GP. So now you have a real tool to do your research with in the active trial balance. And as I described a few minutes ago, this trial balance is active. So I'm going to change this back to period 4 of 2017. And I'm going to make a posting into this 1106 account over here in Dynamics GP. So I'm going to create another batch called YY, add that as a batch, and give it a reference. RR is my reference. I'm going to make that as a 4/10/17, and I'm going to make a posting into the account 1106, except it should be 000 1106 00. I'm going to make that for $500,000, and I'm going to make an offsetting posting into another account right below it, 1107 000 1107 00 for $500,000. And now, as soon as I save this, pay careful attention to this area right here, and you'll see that number come up in that area. I had my hands off the keyboard. I did not have to hit the F9 key. So think about that. I know that you're probably a professional accountant, so you never get your debits and credits mixed up. But sometimes when I'm posting, I get them backwards, and I have to go back and I have to fix them. So if I wanted that to be 0 and this to be $500,000, and on my offsetting entry, $500,000, then as soon as I put that in there and save it again, then those numbers just reverse themselves. So you can really do account research. You can watch yourself work, and you can watch anyone else work, because as anyone anywhere in the Dynamics GP system is making postings to the general ledger, they will appear here automatically. There is no refresh key necessary. Okay, that's the active trial balance. Now, we can go down into the university data set just to show you that we can do this on a grand scale. We'll go to the financial views here. We'll go to the trial balance. This particular account has this particular database has over 3 million transactions. And again, you can look at any one of these numbers, see all the numbers behind it. So this shows you that we really do have tremendous performance. There's 9,219 accounts in the bottom left-hand corner in this particular chart of accounts. If I change dates and I go maybe to 2017, period 1, which is July, and do another calculation just within about 3 seconds there, it did all of these calculations. In ActiveReporter, there are no pre-stored totals. This is generating every number there from the detailed debits and credits. So there's never a way to get out of balance or your details out of balance with your pre-stored totals. Well, we still have to look at the email that this sent us. So here is the email that we just created, and it was sent. In my case, I got a Lubbock report, I got a Abilene report, and an enterprise report. I'm going to open that enterprise report, and I'll bring it over into the view so that you can see it. And so from an enterprise perspective, I have the 82nd Street store with both the overall and by department, the 4th and Q store overall by department, and so forth, all the way down through all of the various stores, and then an all-in-one report here at the end for the CFO. So we generated all of this information and mailed it to all of the constituents, all with what's called automation. We call them bots or robots, because this will do all of the tedious work for you and relieve you of building each one of these financials by hand, one at a time. And as we went through this, we also, when we publish these financials, we also change all the formulas so that there are no more formulas. It's all been replaced by the numeric amounts, and we also lock the spreadsheet. So if you try to change anything on the spreadsheet, you'll notice that it's protected and no changes are necessary. Okay, we've almost exhausted our time. We've gone 55 minutes here. Are there any questions? Or I think I think that Sarah is on the call. Sarah, have you seen any questions come in during the presentation? If you have questions, just type them into the chat area and we'll answer those questions.
I don't have any questions at the moment, but I would like to invite anybody who has one to enter their question. While you are potentially typing your question, I'll go ahead and ask you, Marvin. One of the things that I've seen in management reporter reports is that folks will use dimension sets as well as row definitions to create their statements. Can we do anything with row definitions?
Dimension
Dimension
sets?
Sorry, you knew where I was going.
Yes, I did know where you were going. So when you are in your setup area and your roll-ups, underneath the bots, isn't that what this is? Yes, this is taking your row definitions that are in dimension sets and creating roll-ups out of those. Is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. I've had a few folks ask about that lately.
Sure. So we can also use dimension sets. Now, don't ask me to go show you a dimension set over here. I don't even know if we have one in our demo, but we do extract those. Okay, other questions? Anyone else have a question?
I don't see anything, Marvin.
Okay, we have done such a great job that there are no questions. So we'll bring back up our PowerPoint. I guess there should be one more question, and that is, how much does this cost? We promised that it was going to be economical, so therefore we can look at the cost. Now, I'm going to skip this slide and look at the costs here. So the ActiveReporter is sold in licensed units of databases. So if you have from 1 to 10 GP databases, like you could have 4 databases and 2 test databases, that would be underneath the 10 limit. We don't have any user licenses, so it's an unlimited user license. We do all of the installation assistance with you and your IT department. We also have 4 hours of training that are available with that one-time fee of $2,500 plus $1,800 per year, which works out to $150 a month. Now, if you had 15 licenses, you would need 2 units. It would cost you $5,000 for the initial fee and $3,600 per month. So that's the pricing, very economical compared to any of our competitors. If you have 100 databases, we might work with you for a discount with that many databases. Okay, so now that we've gone through our questions, I want to remind you that there is a $25 Amazon gift card if you'll just fill out the survey. And I'm going to return our MC status to Christine. Christine, it's all yours.
Perfect. Big thank you to Marvin and the AccountingWare team for this demo. As discussed earlier, when you guys are ready to start generating your GP financial reports directly in Excel, please contact us. Our team can help implement solutions like ActiveReporter for your organization. We have Dan Johnson's information on the screen right now. Dan was unfortunately unable to make it today, but if you have any questions, Dan is our go-to for all things ActiveReporter, Microsoft, Dynamics, you name it. Feel free to reach out to him and he'll schedule a consultation with you and talk about your systems. So thank you again for joining us.